Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Super Bouts, our look back at some of the top fights in recent boxing history. I'm Sam Rosen, along with the Prince of Pugilism, Al Bernstein. Today, we'll take you back to 1979, the battle for the welterweight championship between Sugar Ray Leonard and the champion Wilfred Benitez. Real good one, Al.
Well, this is the first title match, of course, for Sugar Ray Leonard at the age of 23. Some people were wondering at that point if he was just a made-for-TV fighter. He had faced some good welterweights, but not the kind of competition that Wilfred Benitez could give him.
Wilfred Benitez, the champion, had won the championship from Carlos Palomino in a 15-round decision earlier in 1979, and despite being 2 years younger than Sugar Ray Leonard, actually had a lot more ring experience.
He brought 38 fights into this fight, and as you said, for someone 21, that is incredible. He is so slick, so clever, and even at that time was considered really a master technician in the ring. That was what Sugar Ray had to look out for. Would he be able to hit Wilfred Benitez? That was the key question.
Looks to be a matchup of the speed of Sugar Ray Leonard and the craftiness of Wilfred Benitez.
Well, I think this was highly anticipated because people knew this would not be total warfare, but a chess match throughout parts of the fight, and I think they knew that both these fighters had the kind of skills to make an excellent fight.
Let's go to Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, and into the ring, the stare between Sugar Ray Leonard on the right, Wilfred Benitez, the welterweight champion, on the left. The anticipation growing at Caesars Palace. Let's get the introductions from Chuck Hull.
The officials assigned by the Nevada State Athletic Commission for the next bout of the evening. The judges are Art Lurie, Harry Gibbs, and Ray Solis. The referee is Carlos Padilla. This is a 15-round contest for the WBC Welterweight Championship. Introducing in the blue corner, fighting out of Palmer Park, Maryland, undefeated in 25 professional fights, a very popular Sugar Ray Leonard. In the red corner, the WBC welterweight champion. He fights out of San Juan, Puerto Rico, weighing in at 144 1/2 pounds, the very popular Wilfred Benitez. 15 rounds of boxing.
Wilfred Benitez, the champion, undefeated. Only blemish on his record, a draw with Harold Weston. He later defended his championship and defeated Harold Weston in a 15-round decision. And, of course, Sugar Ray Leonard ready for this one. There is the champion, Wilfred Benitez, scheduled for 15. What about the early round strategy, Al?
Well, I think Leonard wondering how elusive Benitez will be. He's heard so much about the fact that Benitez is hard to hit, and of course Sugar Ray, with great hand speed, thinks that perhaps he can change that.
The early feeling out process here.
Both fighters have good jabs, though certainly Sugar Ray's would probably rate a slight edge over Benitez. Benitez more effective as a counterpuncher, so it'll be interesting to see if Ray takes the fight to him.
And certainly Benitez a good defensive boxer.
That is his forte, and that's what Sugar Ray needs to test early. Indication early, the hand speed of Sugar Ray landed that good combination, and we can see early here what a chess match this fight is.
I think you saw in that last movement, you see Sugar Ray throwing out that jab and pulling back, certainly in anticipation of that counter from Wilfred Benitez.
And the counter-punching of Benitez is the one thing that Sugar Ray, I think, is most wary of in this fight.
Round one scheduled for 15.
Ray is starting to get the jab in here early, and that's a key punch for him. That will set up all kinds of other combinations for him. And early, he's getting it in more than maybe expected. And there's a good left hook.
Got a good left hook, backed up Benitez with less than a minute and a half to go in round one. Now, Ray Leonard starting to open up here. Sugar Ray very aggressive at this point.
He is landing well, much better perhaps than he might have expected early in the fight against Benitez.
Benitez slipping a lot of those punches. His punches not landing flush. Carlos Padilla is the referee. Nice jab by Sugar Ray Leonard. Crisp on the button.
Here's the hand speed of Leonard. You know, you talk about the fact that Leonard may not have faced a fighter as tricky as Benitez, but Benitez has not faced a fighter that has as quick hands as Sugar Ray does.
Exactly right. Less than half a minute to go in round one. Good start for the challenger, Sugar Ray Leonard. Benitez countering with a good left hook to the body. Late in round one, final seconds. And we'll be back. Getting set for round two of the scheduled 15-round bout for the WBC Welterweight Championship. Sugar Ray Leonard in the white trunks. Wilfred Benitez, the champion, in the blue trunks. At Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. In a fairly quiet first round, Al, but I thought Sugar Ray took it.
Well, he showed, I think, the hand speed that we knew he had coming into this fight, and that was, I think, the key difference in round one. And Wilfred looks a little tight early in this fight.
Leonard, after a cautious start, came on in that first round, opened up with a couple of flurries and combinations.
The Leonard jab working so well in this fight, and that's been the key to his early successes so far. Benitez really hasn't opened up yet.
1979, a very busy year for Sugar Ray Leonard. This was his 9th bout. Record of 25-0 coming in against Benitez, who is 37-0-1.
Benitez coming in here as a double champion already, beating Antonio Cervantes for the junior welterweight title, and then, of course, as you mentioned, beating Palomino for the welterweight title.
Second title defense for Wilfred Benitez, having defended successfully against Harold Weston. And now going up against the great Olympic champion, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Both fighters very cautious, as you said, in this round, using almost exclusively the jab. Neither fighter wants to open up because they are concerned about the counterpunching of the other.
You saw Benitez countering with the left hook.
Carlos Padilla, referee, known for letting fighters fight on the inside. In this fight, that shouldn't really be a factor because both these fighters, as we can see, like to peck away from long range.
Less than a minute to go, round two. Leonard getting the right hand uppercut in there. I'll tell you, there's a look of respect in the eyes of both fighters.
I was just thinking that as I watched this. Both fighters know that the other man has the hand speed and the counterpunching ability to hurt him if he makes a mistake. So neither fighter wants to make that mistake right now.
Clock winding down on round two, and that Sugar Ray Leonard jab looking sharp again. Leonard, the man opening up with the combinations and scoring with them. Nice straight left hand by Sugar Ray Leonard. Buckled the knees of Wilfred Benitez. Final seconds of round two. Sam Rosen and Al Bernstein with you. We're watching Wilfred Benitez on the left, Sugar Ray Leonard on the right. Battle for the WBC Welterweight Championship at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. This is round three, scheduled for 15. I like the staring they've been doing at the end of each round thus far, Al.
Well, both these fighters trying to gain some psychological and physical advantage in a fight in which neither has occurred so far.
For Sugar Ray Leonard, a step up in opponents, obviously, as he fights for the championship. After coming off a win, knockout win in the first round over Andy Price. Not your household name, but Sugar Ray not looking nervous at all, looking very confident. and fighting his type of fight thus far.
If there's a fighter in these early rounds who looks tight, it's Benitez. He is still, I think, not quite into this fight, not as loose as he'd like to be.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't know. He's had a lot of experience, and he's been in big fights. Maybe none as big as this, though. Perhaps we have to recognize that. Except for his win over Cervantes and a couple of Madison Square Garden wins over Bruce Curry, this might be the biggest fight for him.
The Leonard jab has been very effective, and that left hook has landed. Benitez took a straight left late in the second round, had his knees buckled.
Of course, his win over Carlos Palomino in San Juan was significant, and a big crowd there for that, a lot of pressure. So that would be maybe the nearest to this that Benitez has faced.
And Benitez has been reluctant to go in and work on the inside.
Well, I think he was stung early by the power of Sugar Ray and perhaps surprised by the power of Leonard.
Past the midway point of round 3. Nice counter jab by Sugar Ray Leonard. After Benitez was short, Benitez waves Leonard in. Sugar Ray is standing right there and ready to mix it up with him.
Much less foot movement in this fight than one would have expected. They're both right there, but again, so hard for each to land a punch.
Right now, it seems like the hand speed of Leonard is the difference.
And he's putting his punches together better. Benitez throwing one punch at a time.
Benitez missing, and Leonard countering with the combination that scores. Left hook scoring well for Sugar Ray Leonard. And again, Leonard charging in on the offensive.
Benitez so much more effective when a fighter's coming to him and he counterpunches, as was the case against Palomino. Oh,
and a straight left hand, actually a jab, knocks down Wilfred Benitez. He acknowledges the crowd, says he's okay, and a confident Sugar Ray Leonard waits for the mandatory 8 count to be given by Carlos Padilla. Final seconds of the 3rd round, Benitez sent down a straight left by Sugar Ray Leonard, and we come to the bell ending round 3. Welcome back to Super Bouts. You're watching the welterweight championship battle between Wilfred Benitez and the challenger Sugar Ray Leonard. And Al, a bit of a surprise. The end of round 3, Benitez goes down from the straight left.
Well, it was the left hand that I think caught him off balance. It was an indication of Benitez very tight for this fight. Leonard a little looser, and I think in those early rounds, surprising to see Leonard knock him down. I think Benitez surprised by Leonard's power.
Not all that much action in rounds 4 and 5. We're going to pick up this fight in round 6. Let's go back to Caesar's Palace and the battle between Sugar Ray Leonard and Wilfred Benitez. This is round 6. Scheduled for 15. Benitez in the blue trunks, Sugar Ray Leonard in the white. The staring has continued at the end of each round. And certainly Sugar Ray Leonard has been a very confident challenger in this bout. He's built up an early lead against the champion Wilfred Benitez.
The jab of Leonard continues to bother Wilfred Benitez, and I think it's a punch that Wilfred thought he would slip a little bit more, but it's getting home for Sugar Ray.
The question I have, Al, is will Benitez become more aggressive as he senses that Leonard is building up a lead, and I think he has to sense that.
I think he may go in a little bit, but again, his forte is to wait for the other guy to come to him. Now, at a certain point, he's going to have to go in.
This is round 6. Benitez was down late in the 3rd round. Benitez a little short with the left-right.
Wilfred lunging a little bit with some of those punches. An indication he's not used to coming forward and chasing somebody. You know, Leonard's not running from him. The height and reach advantage for Leonard being used effectively right now.
But Leonard very quick. Good hand speed, good foot speed.
These two fighters are really mirror images of each other in a lot of ways.
Spoke of the good defense of Wilfred Benitez, certainly Sugar Ray Leonard with outstanding defensive work as well.
This round they're mostly exchanging jabs, and really about 80% of them have missed. Here's an example.
Padilla stepping in.
Here's an example, Sam, of how little infighting there is in this fight, and how little work Padilla has had to do.
Does that surprise you at all? I thought Benitez might work more on the inside.
He actually is a pretty good inside fighter and works to the body well, and he has done little body work in this fight. I'm definitely surprised at that. You would think that he would be working Sugar Ray's body a little bit more, but he really can't get there to work it.
Carlos Padilla steps in with a caution for the fighters as the heads came together. An unintentional butt on the part of both fighters, the heads coming together and blood coming down the forehead now of Wilfred Benitez, and Carlos Padilla stopping time. And you see the blood trickling down, getting into the right eye and into the mouth of Wilfred Benitez, and they will have to work on that between rounds. Doesn't look like Sugar Ray Leonard has been cut. Benitez with a cut on the forehead from the butt.
And you can see Benitez, sensing some urgency, decides he better go to work here, and so they slug it out.
The end of round 6. And they will work on that cut on the forehead of Benitez in his corner.
Those are tough cuts to stop also. Cuts on the forehead, very difficult for cut men to work on. And of course, the blood, as you said, can drip into the eye.
Benitez looks to be okay, looks confident, smiling in his corner. You see the work being done, mostly pressure applied at this point.
That's about all you can do with a cut in that location. And the vision problem it could create for Benitez is really an important one. We'll take a look at the clash of heads here, and I believe it was unintentional. That it both came together, clear view of it.
I'm almost surprised that one of the fighters didn't go down. That was a tremendous collision.
And fortunate for that man, Sugar Ray Leonard, that he didn't suffer a cut from that clash of heads.
I think he was knocked a little bit woozy for a moment. Then he collected his senses, and it was Benitez that referee Carlos Padilla looked at because of that cut. This is round 7, scheduled for 15.
Benitez starting to use the left hook more. It's a good punch in his arsenal, and we haven't seen it much in this fight.
That last round, when he got aggressive, Sugar Ray countered very well.
You get the feeling that these fighters have those kinds of flurries in them. It's just that one has to initiate the action to make it happen.
Sugar Ray Leonard coming into this fight with a record of 25-0, 16 knockouts. Vaulting into prominence by winning the gold medal in Montreal in 1976. And you see the blood trickling down the forehead of Benitez again. Might be getting into the corner of the eye. It's coming down the nose. But he's not wiping it away, so seems to be okay. Leonard's jab continues to score for him.
There's been a subtle shift here. I really think that Benitez is slipping those punches a little bit better than he was early in the fight. He looks much looser, and in general, defensively at least, is doing a better job. And he's starting, as you see him land a couple left hooks to the body, to pick up the beat a little bit offensively.
A lot more action from Benitez in this 7th round, as he tries to really lure Sugar Ray Leonard in so he can counter. He's just standing there, dropping that left hand down, trying to tempt Sugar Ray. Late in round 7. And that left hook blocked nicely by Benitez. The blood continues to come down the forehead of the champion, Wilfred Benitez.
You can see Benitez shaking his left hand. You have to wonder if there isn't some kind of injury there. He's shaking his left hand, and we'll have to see how much he uses that punch.
Sugar Ray Leonard in excellent condition. That blood coming down the forehead of Wilfred Benitez from the butt when the heads bang together in the 6th round, opening up the cut on the forehead of the champion, Benitez. There's a lot of blood coming down now. It's got to be bothering Wilfred Benitez. Benitez has slowed down. After a quick start to the round, he's slowed down late in round 7.
Leonard has reestablished the left jab and also thrown in good left hooks to the body and the head. And there he just misses with one to the body.
Final seconds, round 7 for the WBC Welterweight Championship. We'll be right back. Getting set for round 8 of the scheduled 15-rounder. Sugar Ray Leonard on the right. Wilfred Benitez, the champion, on the left. November 30th, 1979 at Caesar's Palace. The battle for the WBC Welterweight Championship, and Leonard seems to have the lead, and of course concern in the Benitez corner on that cut on the forehead from the collision of heads in the 6th round, and that blood really started to bother Benitez late in that 7th round, Al.
They've stemmed the flow of blood right now, but of course a good jab by Leonard could open it up at any time.
And the jab has been very effective for Sugar Ray Leonard throughout the fight.
Always some concern about the shape that Benitez will come in to a fight in, and in this fight he looks trim, and I think he is in shape for the fight, but he has never really gotten started, I don't think, as well as he'd like.
Wilfred Benitez, who turned pro at the age of 15 6 years ago. Now at age 21, a 2-time world champion. Leonard missing with that right hand. It looked good, drew a few oohs and ahs from the crowd.
Well, this is, let's face it, a defensive struggle. This fight has been won, as I said, it's a chess match, and it's being waged by 2 master boxers, and so not as many punches getting in cleanly as you might often see.
Past the midway point of round 8. Benitez has really not opened up in this fight. Just a few flurries. The best ones seem to come late in round 6. After the collision of heads. And that cut, trickling blood right now, but it's been kept under control. They've done a good job in Benitez's corner.
Very little foot movement by either fighter. They've both been right there. And one of the reasons why nobody has taken a lot of punishment is the defensive skills. Normally, if 2 fighters are that close, you're going to have a lot of punches landing. Good body work by Benitez. That's what he really has not done much of in this fight. And as I pointed out, he's an excellent body puncher.
Benitez won his first championship at age 17 and a half. The youngest champion in history when he won the junior welterweight title on March 6th of 1976. Won a 15-round decision over Antonio Cervantes. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he was really a wonder kind, and people wondered how many titles he could indeed win, and tonight, of course, trying to hang on to that welterweight crown.
Right now, Sugar Ray Leonard doing a good job of building up points as we come to the end of round 8. Interesting change at the end of round 8. Earlier in the fight, after every round, the fighters would stop and stare before retreating into their corners. This time, just a little tap from Wilfred Benitez to the challenger, Sugar Ray Leonard.
Well, at this point, the gamesmanship is over, and I think both fighters understand it's not going to have much impact one way or the other. We're now down to a test of skills.
This is round 9, scheduled for 15, the WBC Welterweight Championship on the line. Wilfred Benitez in his 2nd title defense. Sugar Ray Leonard fighting for the championship. A record of 25-0. Slapping left hook by Wilfred Benitez scores. Benitez was down late in round 3 from a straight left hand. Was not hurt.
Wilfred has shifted his attack to the body, and in this round, landing combinations not to the head of Leonard, but the body. And I guess his feeling is it's so difficult to hit Leonard in the head, I'm going to shoot downstairs a little bit.
See a little blood on the forehead of Wilfred Benitez. Heads came together in round 6, and a cut opened up on the forehead of Benitez. It bothered him in the 7th round, but it's been under control since.
Ever remember seeing a fight where fighters are at this distance from each other and not landing very often? Really is a testimony to how well these fighters slip punches.
Yes.
Good right hand and a left hook by Benitez there.
I think the thing that has most surprised me has been the lack of inside work by Benitez.
When he gets there and can work those combinations to the body, it's been effective for him. And Sugar Ray goes downstairs with his own left hook.
Right hand scoring for Leonard. Benitez coming through with a couple of right hands. Now Benitez picking up the action and scores with a right hand. And Leonard tying up the champion.
Probably the best exchange of the fight.
An exchange of left hooks. Leonard tries to go to the body.
Both fighters taking more risks now. Benitez, of course, it's important to take these risks. He's landing good jabs, but Leonard with a good combination.
Benitez smiles and shakes his head, but Leonard's right-left worked and scored effectively late in round 9. And this is a very close round because both fighters have scored very well. Final seconds of the 9th round. We'll be right back. Sam Rosen and Al Bernstein, you're watching Super Bouts. This is the battle for the welterweight championship. Sugar Ray Leonard, the challenger. Wilfred Benitez, the champion. The fight at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. This is round 10, scheduled for 15. How'd you score that 9th round? Very close round.
Well, I would have given it to Benitez because of by a very, very narrow margin. I thought he did perhaps the more effective work, but Leonard landed on good combinations as well. That's typical of portions of this fight. I think Leonard, you'd have to feel Leonard's ahead at this point, but as you see the left hook land from Benitez, he has closed the gap here in the last couple of rounds, and he is certainly landing more often.
That overhand right came up a little short by Benitez. Slow start to this fight by the champion, Wilfred Benitez. He has started to pick up the action in the last couple of rounds.
Sugar Ray now switching his attack to the body, and there's the combination punching from Benitez, which has been absent during a lot of this fight. Against Carlos Palomino, when he won the welterweight title, Benitez showed tremendous hand speed and good combinations, but in that fight he laid against the ropes counterpunching against Palomino. He's been in the center of the ring tonight against Sugar Ray.
This is the 9th fight of 1979 for Sugar Ray Leonard. 3rd fight of the year for Wilfred Benitez. He won the championship in January over Carlos Palomino in a 15-round decision. And then defended March 25th against Harold Weston. Both those fights in San Juan. Blood trickling down the forehead of Benitez as he moves in and works the body on Leonard.
And there Benitez doubled up with the left hook, something he's not done often in this fight.
Nice move by Leonard, and then gives us the old bolo action.
Good body work by Sugar Ray. Both these fighters heating up now, and we are seeing, I think, the true test of their skills, and we're seeing a little more action.
Very little dancing on the part of Sugar Ray Leonard, but the movement has been short but effective.
And there's a good example of it. A little walk to the right to give Benitez a different look, and then tries to hit him from a different angle.
Late in round 10. Scheduled for 15 for the WBC Welterweight Championship. And we come to the bell. Getting set for round 11. Sugar Ray Leonard ready to come out of the corner. Wilfred Benitez taking a little more time on the stool. I got Sugar Ray ahead in this fight, but I think Benitez may be closing the gap the last couple of rounds. Al.
He's fought well in the last couple of rounds, and I think the key to it from Benitez's standpoint is he has taken more risks. He's tried to get inside, double up with his punches, and work the body. Oh, big right by Leonard.
Pretty combination. Came behind that left hand with the right. Benitez backing up and smiling and waving to Sugar Ray to come on in. Sugar Ray looking very smart. What a performance.
And the power edge for Sugar Ray has been decisive in this fight. He has had the bigger punches.
Well, you talked about at the open, Al, about Sugar Ray Leonard and whether TV had made him the fighter he is. No, he has made himself the fighter he is.
And this performance a good indication of it. He's an excellent boxer, and whatever exposure he may get, it's because he has skills to back it up.
Outstanding performance as he concludes 3 years as a pro against the 6-year veteran, Wilfred Benitez. Benitez the champion, Leonard the challenger. Look at the work on the inside, the work to the body.
Here's where Benitez has to win. He has to win the war in the trenches, because on the outside, Leonard, by and large, has been the master.
And he's not really winning it. We're past the midway point of the 11th round.
Both fighters fighting well on the inside, but I think, as you say, Leonard a little sharper in there.
Leonard still slipping those punches well. Benitez a little cautious to make his move. The left hand seemed to shake Benitez a little bit, and when Sugar Ray realized it, then he came on in behind it, and here he comes, opening up here in the 11th round. Benitez backed up, and Leonard opening up, measuring his man, scoring with the left hook.
Benitez cannot languish on those ropes. Leonard picking him apart, but that's where Benitez can counterpunch from. Let's see if he can do it against Leonard.
Leonard working the body effectively. Benitez just tapping back, really, to back Leonard off, but Benitez not moving off the ropes. Most of Benitez punches missing. Less than 30 seconds to go in the 11th round. A real good round for Sugar Ray Leonard. Try to wind up and knock out Wilfred Benitez with one punch.
This is the posture against the ropes from which he devastated Palomino and Harold Weston, but not working as well against Sugar Ray.
Short left hook scores for Benitez. Little flurry lands for Benitez. Final seconds of the 11th round. Round 12, scheduled for 15, the WBC Welterweight Championship on the line. Sugar Ray Leonard, the challenger, Wilfred Benitez, the champion. Benitez was down late in the 3rd round from a straight left hand, suffered a cut on the forehead in the 6th round from a collision of heads. And we talked about the conditioning of both fighters. This, of course, the longest that Sugar Ray Leonard has ever gone in a professional fight.
Never been past 10, and that's another question people have been asking leading up to this fight, but he looks fresh. Of course, Benitez, as we pointed out, has gone 15 with Weston and Palomino.
The left hand has scored very well for Sugar Ray Leonard in this fight. Leonard, 23 years old. Benitez, 21. Benitez, 6 years experience as a pro. Leonard, 3 years a pro. This combination by Benitez, and scored well with the left hook.
Benitez has been more effective since about the 5th or 6th round, when he really started using that left hook more, and that's a good punch for him.
Carlos Padilla, the referee. Leonard getting a left hook in there that scored. That's the midway point of the 12th round.
Pace slowed again after it was a little quicker in the 2 previous rounds.
Benitez staying out in the middle of the ring. in this round as opposed to the previous round when he was backed up against the ropes.
Well, he was hurt in the 11th round, and then once he got on the ropes, decided, well, let's stay here and see if I can counterpunch well against Leonard. Found out he couldn't, and so, as you said, they're back in the center of the ring.
And that cut on the forehead of Wilfred Benitez has not bothered him the last few rounds. They've done an excellent job in his corner. Real sharp collision of heads in the 6th round. Leonard just wobbled momentarily. Benitez came away with a bad cut that bothered him in the 7th round. Very quiet 12th round here in this 15-rounder at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas. Right hand by Wilfred Benitez scores. Final seconds of the 12th round, and we'll be back in just a moment. Getting set for round 13. Sam Rosen and Al Bernstein bringing you Super Bouts, the WBC Welterweight Championship on the line. The champion Wilfred Benitez in the blue, the challenger Sugar Ray Leonard in the white. Al, unofficially, what do you think as far as scoring goes?
I think Sugar Ray Leonard's probably ahead in this fight, heading into the final rounds, and except for some really good middle to later rounds that Benitez had, Sugar Ray has used his hand speed and combination punching to give him the edge, I believe.
Benitez has shown flashes. Good combination by Sugar Ray Leonard, the left hook scoring. Benitez has shown flashes at times, but he's never really sustained an attack and never been able to hurt Sugar Ray Leonard.
He's not been comfortable in the center of the ring with Sugar Ray. The reach and the hand speed of Sugar Ray has given him lots of problems. Good straight left hand by Leonard. Now there, Benitez wants to lure Leonard in while he's on the ropes, and look at how wary Sugar Ray is of that. He remembers what happened to Palomino and Harold Weston.
Sugar Ray being very cautious and trying to draw Benitez back into the middle of the ring. Benitez waving Sugar Ray Leonard toward the ropes. Let's see whose will win out here. Benitez missing with that jab. He's just pawing with it. Past the midway point of round 13.
For Sugar Ray Leonard, you can see what a canny fighter he is, even at the age of 23. The fact is, he will not be lured in by Benitez. He holds his ground and waits for an opportunity.
Scores with the jab and then backs up.
And he has now got Wilfred Benitez back in the center of the ring. So that little skirmish really won by Sugar Ray Leonard.
You think Benitez has been surprised by the way Sugar Ray Leonard has fought this fight?
I think he's been surprised by Leonard's power and by his own inability to hit Leonard. I'm sure Sugar Ray has found Benitez even more elusive than he thought, too. He has really not landed that many solid shots, but more than Benitez.
Half a minute to go in the 13th round. Short combination for Sugar Ray Leonard. Left hook works. It's been the best punch for Sugar Ray in this fight. Final seconds of round 13. Getting set for round 14. Again, Sugar Ray Leonard ready to bounce into the middle of the ring. Wilfred Benitez just a little slow coming out of the corner. Benitez the champion, Leonard the challenger.
And after each round, early in the fight, they were staring at each other, and now it has given way to kind of a mutual admiration society. They both nod and smile at the end of each round as if to say, yeah, did a good job.
Thought Leonard had a good round in round 13.
He did have an excellent round, and he refused to be lured into the traps that Benitez tried to set for him, coming in and getting counterpunched as Benitez laid against the ropes.
Carlos Padilla is the referee for this 15-round title bout.
Toward the end of the round, Benitez in the last round landed a good kind of left hook uppercut, and it's a punch he's tried to use throughout, but that was the first good one that landed. There's a good left hook.
And Sugar Ray Leonard able to counter with a left hook of his own.
The big difference, I think, really has been that Benitez is just not hitting as hard as Leonard. He's just not hurting Sugar Ray at all, and Sugar Ray has shown the capacity to at least stun Benitez.
More infighting in the last couple of rounds. We saw earlier, nice left hook by Sugar Ray Leonard. And the combination scores for Sugar Ray. That's the midway point of round 14. Leonard touching the forehead, looking for blood. That could be blood from the cut on the forehead of Wilfred Benitez,
which is still occasionally trickling some blood, but it hasn't been the problem in terms of his vision that we thought it might earlier in the fight. Both fighters have abandoned their body work in the last couple of rounds, not as much as they had in the middle rounds.
Benitez back up against the ropes and working well off the ropes this time.
That time he landed a good left hand. Sugar Ray kind of forgot and came plowing in.
This is round 14. The blood trickling down the forehead of the champion Wilfred Benitez. Nice body work by Sugar Ray Leonard. His flurries to the body, scoring points. Less than half a minute to go in the 14th round. Sugar Ray has paced himself very well.
And still looks strong. And of course, as we said, this is the longest he has ever been.
Final seconds of round 14. Good left hook scores for the champion Wilfred Benitez, but it's been one punch at a time for Benitez. We'll be right back. Set for round 15, the final round of this championship bout. Wilfred Benitez, the title on the line. Sugar Ray Leonard, the challenger. Benitez was down in round 3. And though it's a fairly close fight, Al, I think Sugar Ray Leonard has a big enough lead to the point where Benitez may need a knockout to retain the title.
I think that's a reasonable statement. Sugar Ray has used his hand speed and his better power, I think, throughout in this fight to gain the advantage.
Good combination work by Sugar Ray Leonard as he comes out aggressively here in the 15th round.
For Benitez, some risks need to be taken. He did earlier in the fight, and in rounds 10 and 11, and to an extent in round 12, and it paid some dividends for him.
Some very effective body work by Sugar Ray Leonard in this fight.
He too shifted his attack downstairs when he realized that Benitez was not all that easy to hit to the head.
Again, you see the work to the body by both fighters. Benitez has had his moments, but brief in this fight, where he's looked like the champion he is.
And, you know, Sam, this battle on the inside, the one that I think Benitez needed to win, has not really gone his way. He's done some effective work in there, but Sugar Ray has more than held his own.
Good hand speed on the part of Sugar Ray Leonard throughout the fight. Benitez very tough now. Good left hook by Wilfred Benitez. The champion going hard now as we're past the midway point in round 15.
Those two good left hooks, an example, they had no real impact on Sugar Ray. Two excellent punches, and Ray wasn't moved.
The blood on the forehead of Wilfred Benitez from a collision of heads in the 6th round. But his corner has done a good work, and you see tremendous work to the body by Sugar Ray Leonard as he keeps up a constant attack on Wilfred Benitez. Great pressure by Leonard, who has paced himself well in this fight. Benitez seems to be a little tired at this point, maybe more than a little tired.
And there again, the left hook of Benitez, but that punch just not having an impact on Sugar Ray.
And down goes Benitez. With less than half a minute to go in the fight, Wilfred Benitez goes down from a left hand. You see the blood on the forehead. Benitez smiling to the crowd, but he looks very shaky here. A very tired champion, Wilfred Benitez, taking the mandatory 8 count, trying to cover up as Sugar Ray Leonard goes all out. Carlos Padilla steps in and stops the fight. And Sugar Ray Leonard is the new WBC welterweight champion of the world as he stops Wilfred Benitez with just seconds to go in the 15th round to take away the welterweight title. What a fight by Sugar Ray Leonard.
Not often you see a championship fight stop with just seconds to go, but obviously Benitez embracing Leonard. He did not feel the fight was stopped inappropriately.
And you see the emotion on the face of Sugar Ray Leonard at the age of 23. He wins his 26th consecutive fight. He stops Wilfred Benitez. What a performance by Sugar Ray Leonard. And we commented at the outset, here was a young man who came out of the Olympics with all the glory and all the glamour and all the hype, but he lived up to that hype.
Well, he showed against an excellent fighter, Wilfred Benitez, that he has the skills of a champion. And the big difference, I think, was that Leonard simply hit harder. Wilfred Benitez didn't hit hard enough to hurt Sugar Ray Leonard. Later on in his career, Wilfred Benitez would move on to the junior middleweight division and indeed gain some punching power. But in this fight, it was Leonard who hit harder.
You think it was a wrong strategy for Benitez, who has tended to be a counter-puncher? That's his style. He waited for Leonard, and Leonard really never came to him the way he wanted Leonard to come to him.
Well, that was almost the only strategy Benitez could use that would be really effective. And as you said, Leonard was a little bit too clever for him, but he did dish out some punishment to Sugar Ray Leonard. After the fight, Sugar Ray Leonard was so sore, he couldn't even go to his own victory celebration. So Benitez had his moments in this fight.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this edition of Super Bouts. This one, the Welterweight Championship, November 30th, 1979. Sugar Ray Leonard scoring a 15th round TKO victory over Wilfred Benitez to win the championship. For the Prince of Pugilism, Al Bernstein, I'm Sam Rosen. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time on Super Bouts.